The stroller was seconds from tipping into the freezing river. Eric's boots were falling apart, his body starving. But somewhere deep inside, a part of him he thought was long dead shouted, "Move!" And in that single, desperate act, his life began to change. Welcome to Phoenix Fortis, where stories of resilience, hope, and redemption take flight. I'm Diane, and I'm so glad you're here with us today. If you've ever felt like life knocked the breath out of you, or that the world kept spinning while you were left behind, then Eric's story will speak to you. Today's letter comes from Eric Taylor, a man who lost everything he held dear: his family, his home, his sense of self. But through a single act of courage, Eric began to find his way back. His story is a powerful reminder that even in our darkest moments, the smallest spark can light the way home. And if this story resonates with you, I invite you to subscribe, share, or reach out. Here at Phoenix Fortis, your story matters. Let's begin. Dear Phoenix Fortis, my name is Eric Taylor, and there was a time when life was simple. My wife Melissa and I built a quiet life, raising our two kids, Ellie and Jake. Saturdays were spent playing on swing sets and laughter that seemed to float higher than the oak trees. I framed houses for a living, honest work that made me proud. But life has a way of shifting under your feet. One job dried up, then another. Savings vanished, replaced by bills stacked like an avalanche on the kitchen counter. I tried to hide the weight of it, even from myself. But stress poisons everything. Conversations with Melissa turned into arguments. The laughter in our home, it faded. I kept promising Melissa that things would get better, but I could see she didn't believe me. And after a while, I wasn't even sure I believed it either. When Melissa finally packed up the kids and left, she told me, "Just until you get your feet under you." I stood on the porch and watched them drive away. I didn't even wave, because deep down, I honestly thought maybe they were better off without me. 2 months later, the bank took the house. I stood on the sidewalk with a duffel bag as strangers carried boxes labeled Ellie's room out the front door. I went from being a man with a family to a man with nothing. And after that, there was just nowhere else to go. That's how the street became my new address. The first night was the hardest. There were no beds left at the local shelter. I found warmth against a brick wall behind a bakery, curled under a torn moving blanket. Cardboard isn't warm. Concrete doesn't care. Hunger started on day 2. I searched for coins in sidewalk cracks, learned where the soup kitchens were. But more than the cold or hunger, it was the invisibility that cut deepest. People who used to nod hello now crossed the street. I wasn't Eric Taylor, father and builder. I was just another shadow, drifting through a city that didn't see me. February hit hard. The cold didn't bite anymore. It numbed. My boots were held together with duct tape that couldn't stop the ice. A cut on my foot turned angry red. Sitting on a park bench, I watched people pass by, their lives moving on without me. I was invisible. For a moment, I thought, maybe it would be easier to stop fighting. I sat there, shoulders hunched, watching people pass by, warm coats, gloved hands, smiling faces, and I was just invisible to all of them. You know, some clutched shopping bags, some laughed into their phones. It was like life was just moving on without me. I caught my reflection in the dark glass of a storefront. Sunken cheeks, dirty collar, eyes that looked empty. "Is this who I am now?" I whispered. Not loud, not angry, just tired. That's when he appeared. An old man with a battered suitcase. He slowed, reached into his pocket, and pressed a crumpled 20 into my hand. His grip lingered, not with pity, but with understanding. "Don't let this be it," he said. It wasn't the $20. That wasn't going to save me. But those 5 words, they did. They planted a seed. I stood up. My knees buckled, but I just forced them straight. "Not yet," I whispered. "Not tonight." I limped to a 24-hour diner a few blocks away. The 20 bought me a hot meal and black coffee. But more than that, it bought me one more day, one more chance. Days later, I was near the Riverwalk. I'd stopped to rest on a bench near an old iron bridge. It was one of my favorite spots. Fewer people, a little quieter. I was just watching the river flow beneath the cracked ice. And that's when I heard the scream, a sharp scream, high, panicked, coming from behind me. I turned fast, instincts kicking in, and there was this young mother. Couldn't have been older than 25. She was just sprinting down the sloped sidewalk, slipping on the ice. And ahead of her, this stroller, with a wheel caught in a rut, had broken free and was rolling fast toward the river's edge. For a heartbeat, I froze. Then, move. I lunged off the bench, skidding on ice. My foot was on fire. Did it matter? The stroller teetered on the edge. I dove, caught it by the front bar just as its wheels tipped over. The jolt nearly tore my shoulder out, but I held on. The mother collapsed beside me, sobbing. "You saved her. You're a hero." I didn't feel like one. I was just a broken man who made one choice. But for that moment, that choice was enough. Our eyes met for a heartbeat. Hers full of gratitude, mine full of something I hadn't felt in so long. Purpose. I tried to slip away after the police arrived, but someone had already posted the video online, and by the next morning, it had gone viral for our little town. I saw myself on the shelter TV, hollow eyes, tattered clothes. Mike, the shelter director, said, "Maybe it's time to step back into the light." A local reporter tracked me down at the shelter a couple of days later. At first, I refused to talk, but Mike, he sat me down and said, "This ain't about ego. It's about dignity, about showing folks you're still a man who stands for something." So I swallowed my pride and I agreed. The interview was short. I just told the reporter, I just did what anyone would have done. I was in the right place at the right time. I'm no hero. But she pushed and asked, "Why did you do it?" I thought about it for a long moment, because no matter where you are in life, some choices still matter, I said quietly. The clip aired that night on the evening news. What I didn't know then was that Melissa, my wife, was watching. 2 days later, the shelter phone rang. "Eric?" Her voice cracked through the static. "We saw you. The kids wanted to call. We're proud of you." I broke. "I'm trying, Mel. I'm not where I want to be, but I'm not where I was." She whispered, "One step at a time. We'll meet you halfway." Our reunion happened at a small local park. Ellie saw me first. "Daddy!" She ran straight into my arms. Jake followed, crashing into my chest. I held them tight, burying my face in their hair. Melissa stood nearby, her smile soft but proud. "You've come a long way, Eric," she said. "Still a long way to go," I admitted, "but I'm walking it." Weeks later, Mike handed me a job offer from a local roofing crew. I showed up early, stayed late, saved every dime. 3 months later, I moved into a tiny studio apartment. 4 walls that were mine. Now, every Sunday, I volunteer at the shelter. I tell the new guys there's no easy way out, but there's always a way. One choice at a time, one step at a time. I still carry those 5 words. Don't let this be it. And now, I carry something else. Hope. Sometimes that's enough. Eric's story is a testament to how quickly life can shift beneath us. One moment you're building a life you're proud of. The next, you're standing in the rubble, wondering how it all fell apart. Losing everything you've built, your family, your home, even your sense of self. It doesn't just strip away the surface, it tests the very core of who you are. But here's the hard truth. Rising from the ashes doesn't happen in sweeping cinematic moments. It happens in the quiet, brutal choices we make when no one's watching. When we choose to stand up, even when we're shattered. When we choose to move, even when every step hurts. Eric's act of saving that stroller wasn't about heroism. It was about a man who, even when the world stopped seeing him, chose to believe he still mattered. That's the heart of it. No matter how far we fall, we are always one choice away from reclaiming our worth. One choice from lighting that first tiny spark, because the ashes aren't the end. They're the beginning. Eric, thank you for your courage. Thank you for sharing your journey with such raw honesty. Your story reminds us that redemption doesn't always come in grand gestures. Sometimes it starts with a crumpled $20 bill and a stranger's quiet words. To you, listening right now, if you've ever felt like the world moved on without you, if you've ever stared at the ceiling, wondering when you became invisible, you are not alone. If you've ever felt the weight of failure or believed you were too far gone to matter, hear me when I say this. You do matter. Your story isn't over. Eric's journey reminds us, even in our most broken moments, a spark still waits to be reignited. And sometimes it takes just one act of kindness, one choice, one person to see you. We want to hear from you, whether it's a story of struggle, a moment of courage, or just a whisper of hope. Your voice belongs here. You are not invisible. You are not forgotten. You are Phoenix Fortis, and you will rise again. This has been Phoenix Fortis, where stories of resilience, hope, and redemption take flight. I'm Diane, and we'll be back soon with another story of quiet strength, fierce love, and the courage to rise again. Until then, hold tight, breathe deep, and if you'd like more reflections from Diane's hard truths, don't miss our Phoenix Fortis shorts, brief moments of insight for the days you need them most. And as always, keep rising.